guess who's back? Back again. Jankowicz is back. That's right. Your favorite former disinformation czar is making her case once again, but this time in front of the European Union, taking her anti-American rhetoric all the way to the blue and gold, if you will. And that is happening right now. When did this happen? Yesterday?
Yeah.
Yesterday. She was out there, and again, I asked you, Will, during prep, I go, why is she even allowed to do this? What's happening here? Who is she representing? And of course, making some pretty egregious statements.
She, after leaving government service, started kind of working with European countries, with the UK, so formerly European country, EU member, but starting to move her project of this disinformation board, this kind of stuff, which she was the expert on. It's why she was picked by Alejandro Mayorkas and the Biden team to even have that position here. But she took her talents to Europe, as they say, to loosely paraphrase LeBron James. But she was testifying before the European Parliament's Special Committee on the European Democracy Shield. It was a hearing to discuss Russia's disinformation campaigns, cyber attacks, espionage, and other hybrid threats targeting Europe. But while she was there to talk about Russia, she couldn't help herself but say this before getting into talking about Russia. Let's roll clip number 13.
Before I describe the details of Russia's recent online influence campaigns, I would like to call upon you to stand firm against another autocracy, the United States of America.
The United States of America. We got a lot more content to show from that. You know, the lighting is interesting in that because she was a member of a Wizard Rock Harry Potter themed band.
Right.
The Moaning Myrtles. And she actually kind of looks like Moaning Myrtle in there. A little ghostly. Now, I don't think that was on her. I think that's the lighting in the building. So I don't want to say, I'm not shaming anybody here. But just know that is not, don't adjust your television, as they used to say.
Don't adjust your television. That is exactly how it was supposed to look in the European Parliament.
There was a brief moment in time where they had developed essentially a Department of Disinformation, if you will. What did they call it? The Ministry of Magic?
The Ministry of Magic. No, that was related to the band she was in.
Ministry of something, right?
Ministry of Truth was the phrase that was given to it because it felt very Orwellian.
Yeah,
it was
very
called,
Umbridge-y, if you will.
It was very specifically called the Disinformation Governance Board. This would have been inside the Department of Homeland Security. And when it became public, there was a lot of outcry over it, thinking that especially them planning ahead towards an election, saying they're going to be policing speech. They tried to push back and say, no, we're just giving guidelines and recommendations. We won't actually be policing anything. But we immediately filed a FOIA request to try to get to the bottom of this, and things that we even received from that showed that Alejandro Mayorkas misled Congress. He was saying there's no records on this because it hasn't even started its work yet. However, we knew that they were having periodic meetings, like weekly meetings about the formation and the things that they would be addressing.
That felt very on brand of what was happening. I mean, look what was going on. Everyone was getting flagged and hit with disinformation, misinformation on social media. It was happening all over the place. We know now that the administration was always in talks with Facebook and with other outlets, with Meta, to try to get them to censor information directly. And at some point, even Mark Zuckerberg was like, enough is enough. So we know that this was happening. It's not like this is some shocking moment. The thing is that these people can't seem to go away. They come back and they always make America their enemy.
This FOIA lawsuit is still ongoing. We have another production from the government that is supposed to happen April 30th, so just a week away. And now that there's a new administration, hopefully they will be more friendly about giving us the documents about what was really going on. Because when you hear the speech now from Nina Jankowicz, and you know the things that she talked about, the flashbacks of, there's awful but lawful speech that we have to get rid of, it's like things that are allowed but they shouldn't be kind of nature of these. Now we hear what she is willing to go say to the Europeans about her own country, calling it an autocracy. Now, this is a country that just had a free and fair election back in November, and the person she is referring to as an autocrat has only been in office for a couple of months. So I think before you go full, it's an autocracy, you should at least give it time before saying, that free and fair election had nothing to do with anything because this is an autocrat. But here's the full context, because this hearing was supposed to be about Russia, and she's making it all about America being the bad guys here. It is America enabling all this terrible stuff that's going on in the world. And we played the short version, but let's hear the full clip. This is clip 4 from Nina Jankowicz testifying before European Parliament, urging them to stand strong against her own nation. Bite 4.
Before I describe the details of Russia's recent online influence campaigns, I would like to call upon you to stand firm against another autocracy, the United States of America. The Trump administration is undoubtedly preparing a pressure campaign to force EU institutions to roll back regulation like the DSA, to end support for Ukraine, to stop holding Russia to account. Do not capitulate. Hold the line. Doing so is the clearest signal the European Union could send to Russia and other adversaries that it will not stop fighting to preserve democracy at home and around the world. The Russian Federation, of course, is thrilled to witness division within and between democracies. Moscow continues to actively exploit deepening fissures in our societies in order to amplify discord and polarization.
It just feels ridiculous. And of course, it has to come from somebody who has such a proven track record of being a part of just the massive problem that we had in this country, where free speech was under such extreme attack. So much so, by the way, that the organizations they wanted to work with that misinformation, disinformation board, pretty liberal organizations, started pushing back aggressively. Whether that was on, obviously, Elon bought Twitter and made it X. You had Mark Zuckerberg get a little, woken up by what they were doing, because it became to the point where he even felt like his company was being controlled by the government, where they were having to first be, little good soldiers and help out. And then they had to eventually turn on them, because they said, you're going too far. If someone shares a joke or a meme, we're not going to shut it down because it's not your political point of view. But she goes there to the EU. And again, on behalf of who, really? I mean, on behalf of her organization, to spread this American hatred to a board of people that, again, right now is not the time when we need that happening.
You see all of what is going on at home, and you see the way that the left is mobilizing against the president and against the country and the agenda of the Trump administration. And you see the fight oligarchy. So we're an oligarchy as well as an autocracy currently, depending on if you're listening to AOC or Nina Jankowicz. But you get to the bottom of this and you realize here's why you have to be vigilant and keep an eye on the rhetoric that continues against the United States of America by United States citizens, is because she was appointed to a very high level within the Department of Homeland Security. That's why we have to keep fighting to find out what was already happening, what steps were being taken, what was discussed in these meetings. We need to get to the bottom of that. That's why this April 30th date is so important for our FOIA team. Because if you just let it go away and be like, we won. They were gone. We won on that issue because they didn't finish the board. It got disbanded. We won in November against the radical left pushing against free speech by an election. These people don't go away. They wait. They have patience. They go to Europe and they spread, hey, America's an autocracy, so you got to stand up against my country. And then you think about how the Biden administration were all holdovers, effectively, from the Obama years. These people don't go away. They wait. And when they get an opportunity, because they feel like they have a mandate, even though they say President Trump has no mandate, they certainly, if they get reelected, will have a mandate. And you will hear that. We have a mandate to stop President Trump and his agenda. They'll go back to people like this, people that are completely fine going to Europe and calling the United States an autocracy and telling Europe to stand up, to hold firm and not let America do what America needs to do. And she talks about even that the rollback regulation like the DSA. That is a very large tool the European Union is using to try and censor speech. She's saying, don't let Trump pressure you to roll back free speech censorship regulations that they have. Yeah. Everything that her organization does is about censorship.